New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
What if the person you think you are is just a fraction of who you truly are? What if years of conditioning and surviving in a challenging world have left you clinging to strategies and beliefs that mask your truest nature? I'm Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are? A show that looks beneath our psychological masks and uncovers our profoundly messy, beautiful, brilliant, tender-hearted essence. Join me as we go in search of the hidden power of our true selves. I'm so glad you're here. Good evening, and you know I am so glad you're with me tonight. Welcome to Who Do You Think You Are? I'm your host, Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and you are listening to a podcast that is dedicated to helping you have the highest regard for yourself. It's dedicated to helping you live from a place of deepest self-respect and self-love, and it's dedicated to helping you make yourself a priority in your own life. Meet me here each week for curated tips and strategies designed to help you drop your psychological masks, connect with your truest essence, and simply live life more easily. Because we know that when we approach life in this way, we naturally and almost effortlessly and organically have more room, more generosity, and more love for other people. And isn't that what we need now more than any other time? So welcome, self-love builders, wide receivers. And as of last week, I think we can add Salmon and Maverick to the list. Welcome. So glad you're with me. I want to begin by, for those of you who celebrate Easter, I want to begin by wishing you a good, joyous Easter night. I hope it was a good weekend for you. And for those of you who just celebrated Passover, I hope your holiday was rich and meaningful and joy-filled. My wish for all of us as we begin this spring season is that we experience a refreshing, a regreening, a renewal of sorts of the kind of life we know in our bones we can live. So if there are impediments, if there are blocks, if there are obstacles, my wish, my prayer, my hope, my intention is that we come together and do what we can to part those obstacles and create a path where it may look like no path is possible. But we know what happened in the Exodus all those years ago when the Red Sea parted and there was suddenly solid, dry ground. I wish that for all of us. I wish that the boulders that have perhaps kept us in a cave, boulders of self-doubt, self-recrimination, self-abandonment, self-loathing, self-criticism, all the things that we tell ourselves in our minds that keep us stagnant, keep us from flying. My wish is that those boulders be moved, removed, so that we can experience the kind of freedom we long for. So that's what this show is about. And, you know, if you were with me last week, you heard me have what I thought was a wonderful conversation with New York Times bestselling author Tama Keeves. Tama wrote Learning to Trust Yourself, Breaking Through the Blocks That Hold You Back. And I think it was a really meaningful talk. Tama is someone I think, we've all read the books, we've listened to the authors, and many of the good ones talk the talk. And there's value in that. But not all necessarily walk the walk. And Tama Keeves does do exactly that. So I just want to kind of remind you that short notice though it is, Tama is doing a 3-day retreat at Kripalu in Massachusetts. For those of you who may not be familiar with Kripalu, it's a wonderful, beautiful. It was a monastery. It's now a place, it's on many acres. I don't know what to call it, a campsite, a monastery, that is devoted to personal growth work. And Kripalu often sponsors deep thinkers, visionaries, New York Times best-selling authors. Anyway, Tama's going to be there next week. And if you can, drop what you're doing and clear your schedule for Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. You may want to consider going. I'm doing just that, kind of moving heaven and earth. People in my life are very understanding of me doing that, and I'll be there this weekend. And if you're unable to go, look for her appearances, look for her retreats. I think they're wonderful, and I'm going to report back. So, Tama Keeves, remember her. And I see people joining the chat. I want to welcome you still, Bill. Welcome. It is good to have you here, Bill, all the way from Lisbon. We'll be chatting later. Janine, welcome. Glad to have you here. All right, so apropos this topic of removing boulders and parting the ways of our obstacles, what does it take for us to do that? As I've said so many times on this show, the chances of someone coming to save us are pretty slim, and if they ever existed at all, and they're getting slimmer. So whose job is it to create the kind of future we want for ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, for this planet? Whose responsibility is that? On whose shoulders does that task lie? Well, it lies on mine, and it lies on yours. And I believe each of us really is called at this time to step up and support one another in higher consciousness. Because in order to make a contribution to this planet, in order to bring more peace and calm and insightfulness to this planet, we have to first experience it within ourselves, right? I know you'll agree with that. And if we are, for some reason, if we are oblivious, if we're tuned out, checked out, tapped out, and we're not really paying attention, we are kind of asleep, aren't we? And if we're asleep, I don't think we're much good to anyone. And so I like to say that foggy minds, avoidant minds, distracted minds, histrionic, self-absorbed, gauzy, and minds that are not paying attention do not bring calm or clarity to anyone. So it is up to us to be clear-headed, right? Clear-headed. If you're with me in the chat, let's hear it for clear-headed. And how do we accomplish that? Well, I wrote a book a couple of years ago on this exact topic, and it's called Unmasked: Discover the Hidden Powers of Your True Self. And why did I call it Unmasked? It was during the height of the pandemic, and of course everything was masky. But I called it Unmasked because I think that the foggy minds of which I speak, the self-absorbed mind that we may have, we have because we're busy, I believe. We're busy trying to defend ourselves against lovelessness. We're trying to defend ourselves against rejection. We're trying to shield ourselves from being pushed aside or cast aside. So we have, without even realizing it, just from growing up in a human family, we have adopted since childhood these personas or these psychological masks in order to adapt to our environment as children so that we could get the kind of love and approval that we craved, that we needed, that we deserved. And so something very interesting, fascinating, wonderfully adaptive, but also problematic happened as we developed these masks. So I'll tell you what I mean. You know, we're born a blank slate, right? We come into this world a beautiful bundle of perfection. And then what happens? We're 2 or 3 years old, and what do we hear from our caretakers? We hear, don't do this, don't do that. Be more like this, don't be so much like that. Be like your sister, don't be anything like your brother, et cetera, right? So we're given a list of conditions and requirements that we internalized. And these conditions were messages that said to us, if we behave exactly as told, and we allow ourselves, as children must, because we take our cues from the adults in our lives, we mold ourselves according to the expectations of the people on whom we depend, the people whose love we cannot do without. And so what happens is over time, we kind of forget. We forget who we really are. We forget things like our innocence, our basic curiosity, our wish to explore, our carefreeness. And with age and with responsibility and with these expectations comes the weight of, I need to be a certain way. I need to comply with those requirements in order to maintain good graces with the people whose love I need and on whom I depend, whose care and love and attention I live by. And so in not too long a time, we become kind of estranged from our true self, our deepest self, our inner wisdom, our intuition. And we walk around with this mask. And guess what? So does nearly everyone else, at least in this culture. I can really only speak to this culture, but I think this is true of Western culture. Is it true other places? I'm not sure, but certainly here. So what happens? We walk around mask to mask. Masks are shields, defense mechanisms, layers of cover up, layers of, I have to say, pretense, not malicious at all. But again, it's our strategy. It's our way of getting the thing we want most in life, which is acceptance and love from key figures, right? So we all walk around mask to mask, and then we wonder why we don't feel seen. And the people in our lives may wonder why we don't see them. Because there are these layers, these crusty layers that obscure what I think is our brilliance. Our brilliance. So we have many masks, and I want to just run through the list because I think for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to devote some time to each of these masks. I came up with about 8 of them. I think there are probably more. And most of us have more than one mask. But like being left-handed or right-handed, we tend to be predominantly one mask over the other. Let me just tell you what these masks are, and then I have to go to the chat and see what's happening there, and then I'll come back. But masks, for example, are the mask of I'm fine. I'm fine. Now, that's a mask. I'll just cut to the chase. That's a mask that reads, no matter what's going on with me inside, no matter how I feel, no matter what I'm worried about or concerned about, um, I'm going to present to the world as if all is well and I'm fine. I'm good. I've got it. I've got it handled. Now, you might say, well, what's wrong with that? You can't walk around like a sad sack all the time. You can't wear your worry on your sleeve. Granted. But the problem with that is when, and this is the case, I think, with each of these masks, when the mask is running us rather than the other way around, then we feel compelled to be a certain way. So then we say, hi, I'm Catherine Duca. Let's say if I had a name tag, it might say, hi, I'm Catherine Duca. I'm this mask or that mask. And in a minute, I'm going to share with you my predominant mask. And I'll tell you what my name tag says then. But essentially, we lead with that persona. We lead with that persona. And we don't really realize that we have flexibility with that. We feel that this is how we have to be. So we walk through life, we interact with people, we enter relationships wearing this mask, and it's pretty tightly sealed. I think it's, the way I conceptualize it, it's hermetically sealed. We are identified with that mask. To know me is to know my persona. But guess what? There's a whole other level to my beingness, and I submit to yours beneath that mask. And the gap between how we present to the world, how we present to one another, how I present to you, how you present to me, the distance between that and who I really am inside, or how I really feel inside on, not on a day-to-day, because our moods change, circumstances change, but essentially who I feel I am inside, the degree to which that gap is narrow or wide is the degree to which we may run into certain difficulties. If that gap is wide, and for many of us it is, and for me it was quite wide, then in that space is where I may feel like I leave my house in the morning and I have to be an actor. I have to be an actor. I have to put my costume on and look polished or look however I think I need to look and present myself that way, knowing that deep down there's another dimension to my being. And that's where I might feel like I need the, I'm contending for the Oscar award, or I may feel like I'm a fake or I'm an imposter. How many people talk about imposter syndrome? How many people, high level people you would be very surprised to learn, feel that they are an imposter. And I attribute this largely to the fact that there is this space between who I really am, and I'm probably ashamed of some of who I am, so I hide that and I present this exterior, this very polished, curated exterior to the world. But then I have to live with feeling like an imposter. And that grates on me and weighs on me and brings me down. So in order to come out the other side and emerge more clear-headed, you and I submit to you, need to be willing to lean into that gap and explore it and find out what happened in our lives. What happened that caused us to have this gap? Because the goal, try as we may, to conquer or hide or divorce ourselves from that side of ourselves that we're not crazy about. The problem with that is that we walk around incomplete, amputated, if you will. That's a strong word, but amputated from a deeper, genuine aspect of ourselves. And so Carl Jung famous Swiss psychologist who coined the term shadow, the part of ourselves, the parts of ourselves that we deem unacceptable, the parts that we're ashamed of, the parts that we would die if anybody knew. Those are the parts that are split off from our awareness. And we walk around a fraction of who we truly are. Now, you might say, well, isn't that a good thing? Why should we lug around and show the world our, quote, negative side? I don't really use that word, but I'll use it for the moment, negative side. Who wants to see that? Well, the idea is not, and I want to be clear about this, it's not to necessarily lead with our worst, foot. But it is, Carl Jung would have us do this. He would say, rather than be good, it's better to be whole. It's better to understand our shadow side. And when I say understand, I mean understand with compassion, compassionate recognition. How did I get to be this way? What happened? And in so doing, we can become, and this is the word, if therapy could be boiled down to one word, I would say it is integration. I love that word. It's to integrate the rye with the pumpernickel. It's to integrate these disparate aspects of ourselves with understanding and empathy and insight and awareness. Because when we do that, we don't have too much to hide from. We don't have too much to run away from or be ashamed of or be on high alert that someone's going to discover us. Right? So the word here is, and the whole intention is integration. All right, I'm going to take a pause, look over here at the chat. I see a lot of interesting things here. Okay. In no particular order. Claudia, welcome, Claudia. Nice to have you here tonight. Hiding behind a mask is also a means of survival because of fear of rejection. 1000%, Claudia. That's where the mask stemmed from. If our parents said, I need you to be this way, I need you to be that way, or they only responded to us when we had a stomach ache, or when we were sad, or when something was really wrong, and they didn't respond to us at any other time, we might have adopted the mask of, there has to be something wrong with me. I always have to have a problem, right? That's the mask of I always have to have an issue, because that's how I was conditioned to believe I could get love. So Claudia, 100% correct. All right. Now somebody's congratulating Bill. Bill, what did you do, Bill? Welcome, still Bill, back from London. Are you back? Still Bill. For unto us a child is born. Rosalie Grace Farina on 4/18. Oh, still Bill. Your second granddaughter. What? That's what people are. Wonderful, Bill. Congratulations. Rosalie Grace Farina. Wonderful. Wonderful. And blessings. Now, Rosalie Grace came into this world a bundle of perfection. And may the people in her lives, certainly her grandfather, is an insightful, gentle, self-aware man. And may others in her life be the same, because this is where Rosalie is going to learn that she is perfectly fine and lovable and worthy and deserving and beautiful and perfect just as she is, no matter her grades, her achievement, her looks, her anything. So welcome, welcome. That's beautiful, beautiful news. Right, Janine, you're congratulating him. Dawn, you're congratulating. New babies are an expression of love, awe, and hope. Absolutely. Leandra, you're congratulating. All right, Janine, let's see. Janine. Unmasked has been a very validating read. Janine, thank you so much. Chapter 9 was my favorite, and I found myself under many of the masks you described, definitely beneath the I'm fine, but elsewhere also lots of overlap. That's right. It's like, It's like, we all use our left and right hands, but we're, predominantly one. But by all means, there is overlap. There would be a very big Venn diagram. So, Janine, I was going to talk about I'm fine tonight, and if I have time, I will. But if not, most probably next week, because I think it's a mask many of us can relate to. Michelle, welcome, Michelle. Good to have you. Wearing the mask can be a good skill to navigate through our lives. Wearing the mask can be a good skill, yes, in order to navigate our lives. For me, the downside included terrible anxiety, feeling inauthentic or like a fraud, and I was emotionally exhausted. That's the thing. That's the thing. We don't realize. Think about this. Think about this. If there is a person or an aspect to ourselves, of ourselves that we don't like, and we stay away from that aspect, and we judge it and label it, it's undesirable, it's ugly, who would want to see it? Then we have an adversarial relationship with ourself. Tama talked about this last week. She talked about the relationship we have with ourselves. And maybe we don't stop to think about it, but we do have a relationship with each one, ourself, and the selves we have within. So the impatient self, the sloppy self, the nasty self, the bitchy self, the needy self, the whiny self, the hidden self, the judgmental self, I don't know, on and on and on. We judge these aspects as bad. We don't go near them. We stare at them in the back of our minds, trying to keep them hidden and submerged. Heaven forbid anyone should find out. That puts us in fight or flight with ourself. Fight or flight within ourselves. So the cortisol spigot is always on, low level, but it's always on. And it is exhausting and depleting to constantly be the point guard, to make sure that other aspect never leaks out. And guess what? It leaks out because that which we suppress and keep under pressure in the most inopportune times is going to pop up right in our, right in our path. And it always happens at the least opportune time. So Michelle, I hear you. It's exhausting. It makes us, we can't help but feel inauthentic. We can't help but feel fraudulent. We can't help but feel like imposters. But I promise you that as you become, and it's not a switch, it's a more and more and more process. As we become more integrated, the exhaustion fades away because we're not defending against anything. It's really astounding. And we're going to get into this more and more over the next few weeks. Okay, you want to add, Michelle, that when I embraced my shadows, I had better self-understanding, eye-opening, and life-changing. It can only be. It cannot go any other way. All right. Claudia, I wanted to exactly conditioned, right? You're relating to that word. Dawn. Ultimately, it all comes from seeking love. That is the be all and end all. We try so hard, we try our best, but need to realize our efforts actually keep us blocked, walled off, unfulfilled. And it's our own love we need to seek first. That is so true. We need to realize that our efforts actually keep us blocked. The thing that solved the problem back then, putting that mask on, being good children, obedient, compliant, hoping to hold on to our parents or caregivers or teachers, love and affection. That strategy, that was how we solved the problem, actually becomes the problem and the dilemma later in life. So that's the paradox. So what we want to do is lean into this. And it takes a certain amount of courage. But we have that here at Who Do You Think You Are? We have that here. right? So, Claudia, I'm going to take your comment and then we're going to go to a break. This show flies much too quickly. So true, Dawn. From the time we're very young, we seek love and validation. That is the number one thing: love, validation, and the knowledge. This is what we're so hungry for: the knowledge that we matter, that what we think and what we feel matters to other people. But when the essence of who we are is conditioned out of us and we are called to be this other way, then what happens is we don't feel validated for who we are. We seek approval and agreement for the masks we wear. Don't you like me? Because I'm not needy. I'm fine. I have it all together. Okay, nothing to see here. You have to like me for that. I'm not a burden. I'm not whining. I'm not a baby. This is the dialogue. This is what we tell ourselves. And then we seek validation for the mask, and we get it. We often get it. But the more we do, guess what? The tighter that mask, the tighter the seal, the more hermetic the bond, right? So much of what we do is in the service of going in the opposite direction. So what we're going to do is, because it's half past the hour, we're going to take a short break, digest this, get something to drink if you have to. We'll come back in a few minutes, and I'll begin with I have many, as Janine said, one of my masks. So you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are on New Thought Media Network. We'll take a short break. Stay with me.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
What if the person you think you are is just a fraction of who you truly are? What if years of conditioning and surviving in a challenging world have left you clinging to strategies and beliefs that mask your truest nature? I'm Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are? A show that looks beneath our psychological masks and uncovers our profoundly messy, beautiful, brilliant, tender-hearted essence. Join me as we go in search of the hidden power of our true selves. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back. If you're just joining me, you're listening, of course, to Who Do You Think You Are? That's what you've tuned into here. And we are talking about psychological masks, those invisible walls, shields, cover-ups that we were conditioned to wear from a very early age. And these masks solved one problem in childhood, but actually have come to create other problems in adulthood. So this show is about identifying certain masks and being able to just kind of maybe lift them up a little bit and take a peek into what's beneath those masks. So I said I would share one of my masks. I have many, and I'm going to do that. And I'm just going to refer to something that I've written in my book. What chapter is this? Now, Janine, you might know because you know the chapters, but I'd like to read the dedication first because this will tell you some of what you need to know here. This book is dedicated to my dad. So to my dad, who sparked the kind of conversation around the dinner table that made my career, this book, and my mental health issues possible. If you're looking for me, I'll be outside playing. I'll explain the outside playing in a bit. But my mask is in the part of the book entitled There She Is, referring to the theme song of Miss America. So quick story. When I was growing up, I was about 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Beauty pageants were very big back then. Miss America, Miss Universe, Miss USA, I think. And my mom worked as a nurse at that time, and she worked the night shift. So my dad and I would watch these beauty pageants. We never missed a one, and it was a whole big thing. I remember we would get these huge bowls of pistachio ice cream, and we would hunker down and we would watch the 2-hour special. And I mean, it was uncanny how from all of the contestants in the beginning, my dad and I, from the get-go, we could now, our track record was we narrowed it down to at least the runners up, if not the actual winner. And a few times we did get the winner right out of the gate. Now, my dad, John Duca, would watch the pageant the way I imagine other dads watch the Super Bowl. Now, this might be triggering for some of you. It used to be triggering for me, but therapy. My dad would literally call out to the television, "Oh, wow, beautiful hair, great teeth, great smile. Oh, what a beautiful nose she has. Oh, those green eyes and those legs. Oh, she must be 5'10", 5'11", whatever the case may be." And I'm watching and I'm eating the ice cream and I'm taking note of the sparkle in his eye, frankly. And I thought to myself, just all the way in the back of my mind, because I'm enjoying this little game we have here. In the back of my mind, I thought to myself, now I didn't put words to it. This was kind of a background thought. But if I had put words to it, the words would have been something like, what do I have to do to get that sparkle in his eye? What do I have to do? Because I'm not 5'9". I mean, right now I come in at 5 even. So I'm not 5'9". I do not have legs from here to there. My eyes are brown. They are not green. And so I had nothing in common with Miss Montana. And I lamented that, you know. And so then the show would come and go and whatever happened, happened. And I'm sure my dad didn't give, the whole thing any more thought than that. But I did. What's it going to take to get the sparkle in his eye? And then, wouldn't you know it, my dad, whom I was very close to, actually, He was the very first person to compliment me, or anyone actually, a man or a woman. He'd be, oh, isn't it? He would give kudos to anyone he thought he wanted to give kudos to. He would also be the first person to offer criticism of me and other people. And it was a little hard to take, I have to say. And so he would tell me when I got a perm, I think the day before 8th grade or something, I got a perm. And he said to me, oh, with that frizzy hair, look at what you did to your hair. You've ruined your hair. Now you'll never be Miss America. Oh, never be Miss America. And then he would say something like, he would say this, your eyes are a little too close together. Do you think my eyes are too close together? I don't know, but that's what I grew up with. And then when I chipped my front tooth, I'll never forget, I chipped my front tooth drinking a Coke from a bottle. And he said, now for sure, you'll never be Miss America. So I internalized that. And I said to myself, well, I'm never going to get the sparkle. At least not this way. I'll never be Miss Montana. So what can I do? Well, I said to myself, unconsciously, I only realize now, looking back, I think I'll have to do everything perfectly. I think I just can't disappoint him. Now, he never asked for that overtly. I just put it together, sparkle in his eye, long legs, perfect teeth. That's what my father responds to. Now, he was a loving dad. He was nurturing. He talked to me. He was excited about anything I did. He backed me up. I really liked and loved my dad. But there was this other side, and that side really got under my skin. And so my mask is the mask of the perfectionist. And so I grew up, and it's still with me to this day, though I have to remind myself and I have to work on it and everything, that there's no room for anything that isn't perfect. Now, I know intellectually and conceptually that there's no such thing as perfection. Of course, I know that. But the little girl in me, the middle schooler in me, the frizzy hair, chipped tooth, scar on my knee girl, simply felt that she could never attain what she wanted and longed for. That gleam in my dad's very sparkling green eyes. And so I became obsessed with makeup as a young girl. Makeup. I thought I could make up for my inadequacies. I could make up for my flaws. And there was some hope all the way in the back that maybe, I could get that sparkle. And so you can imagine the pressure that I heaped on myself. And to tell you the truth, if I'm not careful, I still do. And this really dominated this really dominated decades of my inner dialogue with myself. And so it wasn't until I explored this with another, and by the way, maybe you can relate to this. It didn't matter how many times someone told me, your eyes aren't that close together. You're not a cyclops. No matter how many times someone told me that and tried to reassure me, it didn't stick because I thought, oh, it's the makeup, it's the way, it's my persona. It's what I'm trying to do that they're complimenting, not really the ugly duckling, the non-Miss America inside. And so my gap just remained frozen in time and probably got wider and wider. So it wasn't until I explored in my own personal work who my dad was as a person that I was able to penetrate to a large extent, not completely, this belief that I see. When we talk about limiting beliefs. We don't even know their beliefs. We just think that's the way it is. That's the way life is. This is the way I have to be. But when I understood that my dad, who was not a tall man, 5 foot, what, 5'6", maybe. My mom was taller. I think she was 5'9". My dad, an Italian American, very much ridiculed as an Italian American, was really the object, as so many people were at that time, and of course are, um, judged for his ethnicity. I'm sure that hurt his feelings. My dad had his nose broken, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. He had um, quite a prominent, I actually loved his nose, but he had a prominent um, Roman nose, and he was very self-conscious of his nose. So I think what he did was, his intention was to try to spare me from ridicule by having me be, little did he realize, as attractive as I could be. He didn't realize he was creating some damage. He thought he was trying to help me. And, when I realized this and understood this, I could have more empathy and more compassion for myself, for my dad and myself. And I could view him not just as my dad, who I expected to be the unlimited, fountain of everything I dreamed of. He was a man in his own right, and he was once a child, and he was ridiculed and shamed. And it was from that place that he tried to parent me in a way that he thought would protect me. And when I realized that, I felt my shoulders drop, and I felt like, okay, I get it. I get it. And so I could come to view myself somewhere along the continuum of, attractiveness. It's like, I am who I am, Papa. I am who I am. And that's no small thing to embrace that. And I'm doing that still. But that was the starting point of, my chipped tooth and my frizzy hair. Because I was also a very sweet, young girl. I was a helpful child. I was a considerate child. There were many good things about me that I really couldn't appreciate past my flaws. But when I did, the flaws were not as weighty. The flaws weren't the deal breakers that I thought they were. My chipped tooth wasn't going to make the difference, I came to understand, between whether I'm a lovable person or I'm not a lovable person. I am a lovable person, in spite of my chipped tooth and my frizzy hair and all that stuff. And so the integration for me started when I looked at him more realistically, and when I looked at myself more realistically. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the diamond and its flaws. A diamond is still beautiful, even if the color is a little bit off, where there's a, what do you call the flaw? What you call it, an occlusion? I don't know. The diamond is still beautiful. It still sparkles. And we are each a diamond in our own way, not an unflawed diamond. Most of us are flawed and we have foibles. And if we can look at them, understand them, we're more likely to accept them. And then we can be, as Carl Jung suggested, we become neither good nor bad, but more whole and more complete and more unified. And of course, more integrated. So this is how it goes with every mask that we have, and every discussion about masks that we're going to have is framed by and with this concept that the less stellar aspects of ourselves are no less valuable, and in fact, they contain the keys the keys to our deepest selves. That which, so here's the paradox, that which we have disowned, divorced, and tried to block out contains the gold within. There's life there. There's sincerity there. There's innocence there. There's beauty there. And there is love there. And if we can establish and cultivate and allow a more loving connection with our inner self, our young child, and have his or her, their backs, then we walk differently. We walk differently. We carry ourselves differently. And we look at others differently. And that just happens. It's a side effect of looking within. So let me just, as time is winding down, let me just see. Claudia says, thank you so much, Claudia. Claudia is my cousin, I have to say. She is my dear cousin. And Claudia says, you were a darling little girl, Kathy, and so very, very smart, I remember. You see, I take that in. And that is like a salve that goes right into those cracks that no amount of Lancome or Chanel can ever get to. It's the deep, deep, loving serum, the elixir of acceptance. Thank you very much. Thank you. And you go on to say, believe me, striving to be perfect can be exhausting, as Michelle said. Yeah. Michelle, those shows were a beauty barometer in your home as well. Yeah, wow. Do they still have them? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know they judged more than the swimsuit, but I don't know. I like to think we've advanced from that. Let's see. I think that might be. Bill, you're back in the USA for the next 6 months. Okay, I hope that means we have you here for the next 6 months. Okay, a journal. Just Judy, I'm seeing you're saying a journal, but I'm not seeing what comes before. Let's see. Patricia, welcome, Patricia. Good to see you here. Happy Easter. You're very pretty. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Patricia. I love this story for so many reasons. It's so honest and reminds me of how truly fragile children are. Isn't that the truth? And how the die gets cast. I need to reread your book. Thanks, Patricia. Yeah. Little Rosalie, let's all hold as we go out into our lives this week. Let us dedicate ourselves to being the spectator of our critical voice. And any time we catch ourselves in real time condemning ourselves, name calling, doing the things that perhaps our caregivers or teachers or society did to us that we can't stand. But guess what? We accepted the baton and we do it to ourselves. Anytime we catch ourselves doing that, let us think of baby Rosalie. Let us think about that beautiful bundle of perfection. And let us bless her and bless the Rosalie within each one of us. Because that innocence, that wide-eyed, curious, innocent explorer and lover of life itself and lover of love lives within each and every one of us. And let's feed her, him or they. Let's be kind. Let's be mindful. Let's actively attend to. This doesn't happen on its own. We can't forget about the child within and think we're going to be okay. No, we have to take these steps and do this work and turn our third eye within and do so with love. So true, Claudia says, by understanding ourselves, we understand the people around us. It happens automatically. We don't have to, put a lot of effort into that and try to understand people. We just know the path. We know the path, Mm. I just had a flash of somebody cutting me off at the Lincoln Tunnel. You hear me talk about the Lincoln Tunnel a lot because that's the mecca, I believe, of dog eat dog. But, the wonderful things happen at the Lincoln Tunnel as well. And when someone cuts me off, I wonder what they have going. I try not to be impulsive with, a nasty thought. I try to say, I try to bless that person because I don't know. I don't know what their inner child has lived through. And that's what I try to do. So you're right, Claudia. It's a natural side effect of doing this work. So I think I got most of the comments. Claudia, you're saying you can identify with what I'm saying. It was the same with me, always striving to be perfect. And this doesn't mean, I'll just close with this in case anyone is thinking this, but I doubt you are. But it doesn't mean we abandon all standards. It doesn't mean we go dumb. It doesn't mean we get sloppy and careless. Now, some of us might be afraid, if we get off the high watch, if we take our eyes off the ball, if we get complacent, we might slide all the way to sloppy or reckless or lazy or pull the covers up over our heads. I have to say, that really doesn't happen. I've never seen that happen. But if that's a fear of yours, the fear is worth exploring because the fear is your boulder. The fear is the water. The fear is the sea that you cannot get across. That's the fear. But if you explore it, it will shrink. Because when we identify an obstacle, instantly we are bigger than it. And we have objectivity. And that's a very interesting phenomenon. So the word of the week is gentle, curious, understanding, compassionate, and unadorned with masks. Don't think your mask is going to come down all the way. That's not the idea. It's to understand what's beneath it and to do so with love and generosity. So with that, I thank each of you for tuning in tonight, for listening. I thank each of you who contributed to the chat. Thank you so much. Not only am I very touched by your contributions, but it gives me a springboard, and I very much appreciate that. I wish you all good love and replenishing, renewing, regreening, and refreshing as you and I go into our weeks. Be well, get a good night's sleep, let whatever's bothering you, let it be there in the morning. Drift off knowing that you are not only loved, but you are love. You are the embodiment of love. And don't let the mask hold that back too much. No more. No more. We cannot be unconscious anymore simply as a result of this conversation, if nothing else. So friends, I wish you well. I wish you a good week. I'll meet you back here next week for another mask. And, actually next week, wait, no, I have an announcement. Next week, I'll be away. I'll be at Kripalu with Tama Keeves. Next week is going to be a rebroadcast of one of my other shows. If you have a suggestion as to which show you'd like me to rebroadcast, I'd welcome that. Catherine@catherineduca.com. Catherine@catherineduca.com. Let me know what you think, what you'd like to have rebroadcast. And if there's a show that you don't want me to rebroadcast, let me know that too. Okay, everybody, take good care. I'll meet you back here live in 2 weeks. Blessings. Good night.